Welcome to Drafting Out Loud, where we're going to be looking at the underdog market movers for the day. We're going to learn that the risers are rising and the fallers are falling. I don't know what that means. I'm sure you don't either, but we're going to see how we can take advantage of it. Last, we'll look at the platform values and learn that you need to have a torn ligament or torn tendon to get on that list. Let's jump into it. First off, we have our risers. And if you look at this list, you'll see essentially that all the people that are on the risers list have risen rather significantly for the entire month. And a lot of the juice is probably getting squeezed from these players. I do think there are a couple players on here that aren't just FOMO, which I think is maybe what's happening, right? We see these players rising and they just keep on rising higher and higher because of that. Now, I'm not saying that they're not good prices here. No one knows if they're truly good prices or not. But if you ask me, what's going on to make Saquon Barkley rise up another 1.97 for the day, 2.6 for the week? I don't know what's going on there, or 10.78 for the month. I don't know what news has happened to make him rise up. Maybe people think that AJ Brown is going to get traded and therefore they're going to run more. Just thought of that right now. I know, awesome analysis. But, I'm not sure why some of these players are rising up the way they are. That being said, I do think there are a couple players on here that we can probably take advantage of. Number one player on this list is Parker Washington. And I think he's one of the players we can take advantage of because he's also a platform value versus DraftKings. On DraftKings, he's going significantly earlier than this. And so I don't know if Parker Washington at 70 is a great pick. He's rising up the board not because he's a great value relative to DraftKings. He's rising up the board because there's extra talk on Travis Hunter, and people are getting bearish on Travis Hunter, and therefore they're getting a little bit more bullish on Parker Washington and maybe even Brian Thomas Jr. as well, even though he's not on this list, and Jacoby Myers also. So, but the one rising up the boards the most is Parker Washington. I think it's because of the bad news from Travis Hunter combined with the value of Parker Washington on Underdog versus DraftKings. I think it's a little bit of both of those things, if you ask me. There's still a lot of value there if you want to take advantage of some of it. You might be wrong, but at least you're getting a better price. And that's kind of what I've been doing on Underdog when it comes to Parker Washington, drafting him more here, not because I think I'm right, but because I'm getting a better price. And if I'm wrong, so if I'm wrong, whatever. If I'm right with a better price, which hopefully is a good thing. The other player on this list that I think is some obvious value is Devonta Smith. We got Devonta Smith and Dontavian Wicks on this board rising up. Wicks is the biggest riser, and Smith is the lowest riser on this list. But these are the top 14 on the entire site. Again, it's kind of like a weighted average of the day and the week, just so you know. That's why it's not perfectly, going down the list here. But if AJ Brown does get traded, which seems more and more likely with every single move that Philly makes, I think there's still a lot of juice left in this Devonta Smith pick here, in that he's probably going to be going in the third round. And so if you can get him in the fourth round, I think that's great, especially late in the fourth round, which was definitely possible before. Still possible, but you can see he's really rising up the boards here. 147 for the day, 219 for the week, and 429 for the month. And so this is maybe a last chance to take advantage of it. I expect him to kind of continue to rise as more and more people are resigned to the not fact, but we'll say the fact that AJ Brown is getting traded. And then Dontavian Wicks, right? This kind of tells you that people are more and more thinking more and more that he's going to get traded because Dontavian Wicks is the biggest riser here. He, in fact, has surpassed Hollywood Brown as well. Kind of surprised about that one. I didn't think people would react that quickly. I was trying to think in my head which one I'd like more, and overall, I was thinking I'd like Dontavian Wicks more just because he's kind of shown that at the very least he can get open at a crazy clip. Like he's got a lot of juice left. When it comes to Hollywood Brown, in fact, he's still only 28 years old. I just looked it up. And at 28 years old, you'd think he still has a good amount of juice left in the tank, too. That being said, he is not on the risers list, but Dontavian Wicks is on the risers list. At pick 200, he's starting to get a little pricey, but at pick 200, they're all $1 picks. And uh, they're the thing about Wicks and Smith is they've both been crazy effective, I think, at getting open. I don't know all the numbers off the top of my head, but that's what I've kind of seen with Smith, and that's what I've like seen on the field with Smith a bit, and then with Wicks, again, looking at some of the profile stuff for him, he's kind of shown his route running has been great. It's just hasn't been able to get on the field. Had a little bit of issue with drops, those sort of that sort of thing. I don't think his drops were that big of a deal last year, but it was just such a crowded receiver room, making it hard to get on the field. So there might be a lot of juice here with the Wicks pick. He might be able to show that he is a starting wide receiver on Philly, and that's why I think he's rising up. Now, Hollywood Brown could be that guy instead. You don't know, but if you're the starting wide receiver, you think you got to rise a little bit at least. So those are my three guys on this list that I think I'm most targeting. Dontavian Wicks, Parker Washington, Devonta Smith. Uh, Not saying that the other guys aren't good targets. They probably are, right? People don't ever rise up as much as they should rise up, and people don't fall as much as they should fall, probably. So maybe the rest of these players are good picks, but those are the three. Honorable mention goes to DJ Moore here, just again, similar to Parker Washington. DJ Moore is a lot more pricey on DraftKings. When it comes to the fallers, like I said, the fallers are falling. In fact, Hollywood Brown is a faller too. He's one of the only fallers that has risen for the entire month. If you look at almost all the rest of the fallers, except for our first rounders and Hollywood Brown, the rest of the players have fallen for the month. Now, are any of these players that we can take advantage of, or are they all falling for a reason? I do think the ones that we can take advantage, I think there's a couple we can take advantage of. Number one, Travis Hunter. Like we mentioned before, the reason Parker Washington is rising is because of the negative news on Travis Hunter. It does appear that there's a chance that that's just like double or triple reporting on Travis Hunter, meaning that it isn't any new news. It's just the same news from the past, which maybe was more speculation than news, being repeated again more recently, and then people this time taking it as new news. If that is the case, then Travis Hunter at a cheaper price is kind of exciting. I haven't been able to do it, but I think I've seen some drafts where he's gone in like the 170s. So if you can get him cheaper and cheaper and cheaper, I think he's just a more exciting pick because he is the second pick in the draft. He's got a lot of juice potentially if he's got the option. He almost exploded last year and then he decided to tear something. He didn't decide, but he tore something. So we're kind of just betting here for the opportunity to have the most explosive player possible this late in the draft is what we're doing. So I think you can take advantage there with that pick. The other one that, maybe there's a slight opportunity to take advantage on this list is Jordan Tyson. The people are scared just because of what's going on from an injury standpoint. He does have still first round draft capital, and he's falling. And some mocks show him as the first wide receiver off the board. Some show him as the second wide receiver off the board. Others show him as, I think, even the third or maybe even the fourth wide receiver off the board. So we don't know what's going to happen there. We don't know if he's going to fall into a good spot or a bad spot or how much draft capital he's going to have. But he's going to be a first rounder. And if you can catch a falling Jordan Tyson, I think you kind of just got to do it in a lot of cases. If you checked out one of my most recent videos, I did pass on him for expected correlation. And I was kind of kicking myself a tad for it, but I think is another person you can kind of take advantage of a little bit. Not saying again, these fallers are bad picks, just that those are two you can probably take advantage of a bit. If I had to throw a third or a fourth one on there, they'd probably be Hollywood Brown and Bucky Irving. Everyone's kind of anointing Wicks as the number two wide receiver. Hollywood Brown is, more established as a starting wide receiver. And it's really been more injuries than anything else that's kind of made it hard for him to do what he's supposed to do. So maybe on Philly, he can make that happen. And he's falling. I could see Hollywood Brown going to like a last round again in a lot of drafts just because everyone's on Wicks and they're kind of just throwing out Hollywood Brown. I'd take him if I get him late enough. I need a wide receiver, especially on, Philly drafts, of course. And then Bucky Irving, he did it 2 years ago. He's injured last year. He's in an odd situation. They got Kenneth Gainwell. Like, what's up with that, right? They re-signed Sean, whatever his last name is, as well. And so it's up in the air what's going on, but he was such an explosive back 2 years ago that you got to think there's still something there. And will Tampa Bay give Bucky Irving the run to make that happen or not? As he falls further, and based on what he did in the past, I think he becomes a more exciting pick here. You can get him at the end of the fourth oftentimes. So I think you got to do that for roster construction purposes. Running backs are going crazy high right now, and for what if purposes as well. Here are our platform values. And we got Zach Charbonnet on the list. We got Tyreek Hill on the list. We have George Kittle on the list. We have Tucker Kraft on the list. So again, you need a torn ligament or torn tendon to make it on this list, it looks like. And some people are talking up George Kittle. I think that's a tough one. I like Tucker Kraft, but he's a lot more expensive as well. But he's a lot younger. And it's an ACL, which we've seen people come back from rather quickly. And Tucker Kraft isn't a big juke type of guy. He's a leak out, catch, and then pretty darn athletic at that point in time to get up the field and break some tackles. But I don't think he's really juking out players left and right. George Kittle, he's cheaper. He's also riskier with the Achilles. We've seen some people come back quicker from that, but he's also a little bit older. So there's a lot of risk in that profile. But overall, outside of like Rice, who's rising, this is a very uninspiring list of risers. I'm sorry, of values. We got Parker Washington on the list. We got DJ Moore on the list, two players we said we might take based on them rising up the boards and being values. But there's not a lot on here where you're like, yes, I got to get them. And that's because a lot of these are because of injury reasons. Underdog, for some reason, or, not saying it's right or wrong, but Underdog definitely seems to be a little bit more cautious with these players, which makes it a little bit easier to draft on DraftKings, probably because someone like Zach Charbonnet is going at pick 117 on DraftKings. That means you're getting probably a better pick because someone took Zach Charbonnet there. Assuming you don't think Zach Charbonnet at 117 is a good pick, and I don't think he's a good pick. He should probably be falling, which, was he a faller on here or not? He's not a faller on Underdog, but at 148, he's getting a little bit cheaper. So I gave you a couple risers, I gave you a couple fallers, and we are going to get into an underdog draft and see if we can take advantage of that. See you on the next one. Peace.